Good evening. This little video will update us as to where we should be on the local research papers and also kick off our last unit, which is literary analysis. So where we're at with the local issue is that you should be now working on the outline. Remember that for the outline, you want to either use 11 paragraphs or 8. So follow the outline posted with opposite view for each subpoint and rebuttal for each opposite view. So 3 subpoints, each of which have the point, then the opposite view, then the rebuttal. I've just posted the source sharing assignments from my other classes, and you can go through those PDFs and use those sources and links as much as you can make use of. If you have trouble with the links, that's why there's additional info posted there so that you can replicate the search and find the source. That's often the links that someone found on campus, for example, in my other class, won't work from off campus, and you'll have to actually get into the database and replicate the search. So for the database permalinks, that you can expect to have that problem. But what you should be working on is the outline, and that's the major assignment for the next week. Also, we are starting our last unit, which is literary analysis. And you'll see that there are posted several stories and several poems. The way the assignment works is that you pick one story and one poem to write a short analysis paper about. And there are some samples posted. The first assignment is to write a thesis and make some notes, and then the next assignment is to do the polished draft paper. For these papers, there's no required source use. You can use outside sources, but you don't have to. And it is of use often to look at a few outside sources just to make sure that you're interpreting the poem or the story correctly, but you don't have to use them in the paper. But you can, and if you did, you'd make a regular MLA style sandwich and works cited list. So what you do use in the paper as your source is the poem or the story itself. And in this case, you do use direct quotations. You do not paraphrase literature. So that's a change from what we've been doing. Again, if you look at the samples, you'll see a little bit how to do that. Now, just a little warning in that the sample papers aren't the correct length. They're just there to show you the style, the tone, the format, and just to give you an idea, because the sentence structure, etc., is a bit different than what we've been doing. But they're not the right length, they're not long enough. So that's just something to keep in mind. You may need, for these literature papers, especially for the poetry paper, you may need more than 3 subpoints. And that's okay. So with those warnings, I'd like you to just start working through the unit. Again, you pick one poem and write a short paper, and one story and write a short paper. And then the only other warning that I want to give you about the local issue papers, which for a few of you was an issue on the actual source sharing assignment, is that you want to use at least 8 sources, at least 4 of which are journal articles. Then up to 4 more high-quality sources, and up to 2 of those can be original research or primary sources. The problem that I run into is that students want to use newspaper sources, and you can't use more than one of those, and you would only use it as a primary source. Now, a primary use of a research or of a newspaper article would be to discuss media reaction and public reaction at the time that something was happening. It's not to discuss the facts or the ideas. They're not high quality enough sources for that. So it would be more where you were trying to write a paragraph about the public reaction or perception, that's where you use a newspaper source to discuss that. And I need to see that on the outline, that you have enough sources and that you have enough journal sources and that they're all high quality sources, and that your use of any newspaper it would be no more than one, and that you're using it to discuss, again, public reaction. Okay, those are spots where people sometimes run into trouble. But you should go ahead and start reviewing the source sharing assignments from the other classes and using whatever sources you can, keeping in mind those parameters. You are writing a 2,000 word paper. That means it can be between 1,800 and 2,200 words, and that can include or not include the works cited list. So when you're starting to actually put the paper together, keep that in mind, that if it's a little short, you would count the works cited in the word count, and if it's a little long, you'd count it out. That just gives you even a little more flexibility. Okay, I'm going to stop at that and look forward to you writing to me with any specific questions. Thanks.